Super excited for this week's episode of Rooted in Reading because we've spent so much time talking about the downtown growth, the revitalization, all the things coming, but there's one nonprofit organization that has been a heartbeat for 30 years here in Reading, and that is Viva Downtown. They got the stories, they got the understanding of what all Reading is about to become, so we're gonna go interview Blake Fisher and hear it from his perspective. I'm super excited for this episode of Rooted in Reading. We've actually sat through a lot of different people involved in our community, helping tell the story of Reading as to the growth where we're at, the things that are coming, the struggles we obviously have as like a small town community. But today I was like, I need to sit down with Blake Fisher, who runs and helps operate the Viva Downtown, which is a nonprofit organization here. And I think for those that have been following for a long time, we do talk a lot about downtown, because I think without a thriving downtown area, it doesn't incentivize people to see growth, to visit, to move, and whatnot. So I will say that you will explain Viva Downtown so much better than I can.
Thanks, man.
So Blake, first, thanks so much for sitting down and chatting and telling people why they should move to Reading or consider planting deeper roots here in Reading. But maybe help us understand, what does Viva Downtown do in our area and the organization itself?
Thanks, Faith. Also, really good to be here on Rooted in Reading. I am rooted in Reading. This is where I grew up, went to school, and I'm proud to work here at Viva Downtown. Yes, a Reading native. Did you grow up here?
Yeah.
Which school did you go to?
This is where we lose all views. I was homeschooled.
That explains it. No.
Exactly.
No, Faith, I'm really glad to be on this podcast, and it's been fun to watch the Barrett team do so much great work on social media and capturing why Reading is a beautiful place to move for local and people from out of the area that want to be here. So, yes, my name's Blake Fisher. I work for Viva Downtown Reading. Our mission, because I know you're going to ask that, Viva Downtown's mission is dedicated to enhancing downtown through social, cultural, and economic development. So it covers those 3 points, and that kind of guides our mission to what Viva Downtown's focus is. So Viva, we're actually celebrating 30 years since Viva Downtown's establishment next year in 2026. Wow. And Viva started because a group of community members saw that our downtown was, at one point, falling apart and failing. And for those who have lived here in Reading for many years, have definitely seen the transformation of what's been going on. So
it used to be a mall, used to be a parking structure. Everybody, has their opinion about the parking structure.
Yeah.
Now we've talked a lot in our channel with Aaron Ross, K2 Developments, Todd Jones, just like the vision and the growth of where downtown's going. How long have you been with Viva?
I've been with Viva for 5 years.
Okay.
And I got hired right when the pandemic happened. So you can imagine that your very first week in a new job to establish downtown as an area where people need to go, COVID-19 restrictions came. Yeah. So nobody was in downtown, and it was just me and my executive director looking around downtown going, what happened?
Welcome to your first day on the job.
Yeah, COVID-19, everybody go home and stay in place. So I've been here for 5 years, and in those 5 years, we've just been exponential growth of what our downtown is becoming. And that's through, seeing our downtown during a pandemic, seeing our downtown during some of the biggest development projects, that seeing our downtown adjust to what our new downtown can look like. Yeah. So it's been 5 years of just major transformation. I hope people that have watched Reading and have lived here and are visiting are seeing that. And we hear it all the time. Yeah.
We did Hops and Shops a couple weeks ago, which we'll get into the events and just things that people get to experience. For something being, let's say, shop around the corner, great bookstore here, local bookstore. How does Viva Downtown support people in the downtown? I mean, maybe it could be a little bit of a misconception that if you're downtown, like Viva Downtown supports just like downtown businesses. But how does the behind the scenes work for Viva Downtown for people like shop around the corner, people wanting to move their business to downtown?
That's a really good question. And I will have to say, number one, Viva Downtown's was always to create a stronger downtown. Number two, our guiding mission values, kind of our development plans for the next 2 years is business support and arts and culture support. So those are the 2 points that we're focusing on. Now, Viva Downtown, we're not a chamber of commerce. So we're not a membership organization. People are not paying Viva Downtown to be a member. We're a free resource that business owners can be a part of during our street events, or we have our monthly downtown business group meetings, which are open to downtown business owners on the 3rd Thursdays at 2 p.m. If you're a downtown business owner, show on up. But when it comes to business support and resources, downtown's already home. This is the thing. So Viva really was focused on creating a downtown that becomes an economic hub that does support businesses. So if Viva Downtown's not the main business support organization, within 4 blocks from here, you have the Chamber of Commerce, you have the SBDC, over on the Reading Cultural District where the Civic Center is, you have the Shasta EDC, which all support organizations that are nonprofits that are free resources. So while Viva Downtown's not the main business support, if business owners are wondering how Viva can support, we're creating a downtown that everybody who moves to downtown is just a couple of blocks away from people that are going to be able to stimulate and support your businesses.
Or even like the events that you create, like Hops and Shops, First Fridays.
Those are great. I'm really glad you bring it up because there's the event portion of it. You know, Viva Downtown's hope is that we create events that bring people to downtown who probably wouldn't show up on a regular daily basis. And I want to commend, when you bring up First Fridays, Suzanne Russell, who's a downtown business owner, who's owned Carousel, which is over in the historic Lorenz Hotel for the last 15 years. During the pandemic was when First Fridays started taking off. That was when restrictions were starting to lift, and Suzanne, a business owner, saw a need. She saw how other downtowns are doing this, and First Fridays basically start with a business owner showing up to Viva Downtown saying, let's do something, and then we started printing out posters, going over to businesses and saying, do you want to participate or not? And all the business owners just said, yes, let's do that. Once a month, we stay open later, and that way we just create in people's brains that First Friday, there's always something happening, whether that's a big event or a small micro mini event or a special in the businesses. The businesses decide what they need to do, and then Viva Downtown partnered with organizations like Shasta County Arts Council, the Reading Cultural District, just become a catalyst.
A big wave, And I know that like on your website, if people go to vivadowntownreading.com or .org.
vivadowntownreading.org.
Should have gone with my gut. So if people go on that website, I know that part of your About Us and mission there is a Market Street approach. And that's kind of
the Main Street approach.
Main Street. I was like, Market, Main Street, there's me. But the Main Street approach. And I know that that's kind of, in essence, a little bit of your backbone of kind of your organization. Can you share a little bit more about...
I'll pull it up. I wonder if you can zoom in on this.
We'll probably...
You guys could probably even cut it in. So Viva Downtown, we're a Main Street accredited organization. Main Street America is a national network of downtowns from all across the country that are working to improve their downtowns through revitalization efforts, through arts and culture, through economic development, because our city of Reading is not the only downtown that struggled. I know some people like to think that Reading, we're not, we're lacking in areas, we're small. But our story is no different than a lot of people's downtowns. But what we're doing is different, is that we're implementing the Main Street approach, which a lot of other downtowns are doing. The Main Street approach is 4 points: economic vitality, so focus on the economics. Design of downtown, creating a downtown that is walkable, filled with arts and culture opportunities, shade, those simple things. Where's trash located? Organization, that's the organization part of, you have a board, you have different committees that fall under that, and then your promotions. Promotions go under First Fridays or the Reading Beer and Wine Festival or Hops and Shops. So there's 4 points that hit, different things. So that's the Main Street approach, and that's what Viva Downtown's implementing along with our Main Street America partners.
Yeah. Mainly, I feel like people in our area know Viva Downtown as like
Market
the event.
Fest.
Yes. The event hub center, something if it's downtown, Viva Downtown knows, which is cool. Like that's first thought. Like if I want to do something downtown, I think of Viva Downtown. I mean, that's just
great.
Like
Thanks.
really, yeah. It's a great like way to like associate. So where would you say you really saw like that behind the scenes big win that has really just been that big catalyst for Viva just to kind of be a bigger support to the downtown growth and revitalization?
It goes back to 1996.
Oh, we're going way back.
We're going back because this is at a time where, you know, way before, you know, people like me, people, you know, now these are community members that have always had an investment. City of Reading citizens that wanted to have a strong downtown. And we have to go back to the 1970s when we had a Main Street, and then when I-5 was built and Mount Shasta Mall was being built, developers at the time thought, instead of the Main Street that we have right now, how do we compete with that? And instead of becoming something unique, we tried to mimic that mall. And so we closed off our downtown. We closed off a Main Street. And that's in the 1970s, and it wasn't until 2010 that the roof finally was removed. It wasn't until 2013 that the last part of the mall was moved. It wasn't until 2021 that the streets finally went through and that we had a Main Street.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of the overarching, you know, development that we are seeing. But this is 30 years of planning, and Viva Downtown started over at the Lorenz Hotel.
Wow.
That was our first office. And right next to Lorenz Hotel was the historic Carnegie Library.
Yeah.
It was in the 1980s. That
had our interview over there.
you know, we should have. That's where the heart of Viva Downtown began.
Yeah.
And it was community members that saw a historic Carnegie Library get torn down and created into a parking lot.
Yeah.
And so basically we had the downtown mall, which was collapsing on itself. We had a whole bunch of parking lots replacing historic buildings. And then it came with a final historic building that was torn down to create another parking lot. So we have all this parking,
Yeah.
but nothing to do in your downtown.
Yeah.
There was no economic growth. There was no reason to show up.
Totally.
And when you travel, you're not traveling to an area to go look at an empty parking lot.
Yeah.
You're traveling to go look at historic buildings,
Right.
arts and culture, downtown businesses. So we started with Market Fest, and that's where I think a lot of people know about Viva Downtown is Market Fest. It was a summer-long music festival that took place over at that parking lot once a week on Thursdays for many, many years until people, and it brought people downtown with music, beer. Beer's the economy. We can't wait to talk about that. And vendors. And basically, because people started showing up downtown once a week and seeing what we had to offer with these historic buildings, people started saying, well, how do we make this parking lot something special that all the community can work towards? And that's when it became Library Park. All the community rallied around investing in that, because that's where the food truck park is.
Right.
So they put, you know, bricks around, shade, trees, misters, and the stage that's over there that everybody goes to at the food truck park, that stage mimics the architecture of the Carnegie Library that was torn down.
Wow.
So, you know, that's the humble beginnings of Viva, and where Viva Downtown has always been with downtown is what are the needs at the time. We're not trying to push a downtown to something that it has to be at that moment. We're just focused on smaller projects. So it went from Market Street, Market Fest, to the Carnegie Library and Library Park, over to the Cascade Theater, which that's another historic building that was shuttered. And then we went into the downtown mall, and now we're here in the historic IOOF Hall, which was built in 1888, making it the oldest brick structure in Reading.
That's easy.
So Viva shows up around downtown to the current needs and the current development and the current interest. And that's kind of our 30-year history.
And how do you, I mean, I feel like change is always hard for anybody. And when I was talking with Todd a couple episodes ago, it feels like you have this group of like preserve the mom and pop, don't commercialize, you know, growth, all this kind of stuff. It was kind of like when the sundial was, you know, developed, everybody, like there was a group of people that like opposed it. And now it's like the main attraction of Reading. Like if you go to Reading, then you walk the sundial, you know. Why do you feel like people here in that area tend to be more resistant to change? I mean, you do have a very large group of people that are very active and excited.
Well, Faith, with that, you know, I have to speak now as more Blake Fisher, who, not the Viva Downtown representative.
Yeah. Is this going to be on camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as someone who grew up here in Reading, this is somebody that grew up on East Reading, went to, you know, local high schools, saw our downtown before now. And, you know, I would never want to have people, you know, try and change the minds of resistance or because change is big. And this is 30 years plus of leading up to this moment. So I know it seemed like it was overnight that this change happened for our downtown.
Yeah.
But it was a long time coming, and the information was very available for, you know, everyone to see what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm proud as a longtime resident to see where our downtown has become. Outside of the Viva Downtown realm, because it's a place that people are feeling safe to walk around, contrary to belief. You know, our downtown is safe. It's one of the safest areas in Reading. And that's because the changes that we've seen now is not a mall that's empty and locked up in the center and heart. We're now at a place where there's complete streets, there's walkability, there's businesses moving in, there's residents that live here 24/7 hours of the day. That get to see a downtown that's activated. Because there's a while where basically in your center of downtown you had a promenade that was roaded off to everybody. People did not feel comfortable walking down there. It was dimly lit.
It was just office spaces.
It was office spaces. There was inconsistent hours of times of operations. There were parking structures that people didn't feel, for lack of a better word, safe to go to. And so all this development has been huge. And I'll tell you, when I got onto Facebook 5 years ago, when I got to work in this organization, the rhetoric for downtown was a lot different. And there's been a change in the way people look at our downtown. It takes the way that people tell our story. People have to tell their story about something that they're proud of, and that comes from residents that are here not trying to change it, but to show the assets that our downtown already has. There's a time where when we started regrouping our Viva Downtown Facebook, we could post a flower. Like, here's a flower in downtown, very pretty. And all the comments, what's going on? Why is this downtown? Boo, 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 flower, ooh. Now, the rhetoric's changed. It's like you post something about arts and culture or a business owner over here, people are supporting that. And we want to tell the story more from the business owners who are already here. Because people say there's nobody in downtown. Well, there's business owners like Amber at Shop Around the Corner Books. Over here, there's 2 new apartment complexes with residents of all different backgrounds, all different age ranges, that live in downtown 24/7, that see a downtown completely different from anyone else. I mean, downtown is what you make of it, and I would say that most of the people that are resistant to change or seeing that are going off of Facebook pictures or not even actually walking down and seeing the downtown itself. There's so many people that I've heard that have lived here their whole life that are just now seeing this downtown.
It is wild.
And being proud of it. And there's a lot to be proud of because we have a main street again. We have large streets that we can hold big events. We're seeing opportunities with our cultural district partners like Cool April Nights is, you know, there's always a car show in downtown, but now the car show's the kickoff into Cool April Nights, one of the biggest TOT, transient occupancy tax generators. There's opportunities for the Asphalt Cowboys, who grew their pancake breakfast from being under the Cascade Theater over here to Market Street. And there is no problems with parking during that day. Because they serve 10,000 pancakes and everybody gets here on Market Street filled up. There's a lot to be proud of, and I think it's important for residents, if you haven't been to downtown, to go and drive around and get away from the Facebook comments, because this is someone who's seen downtown at its worst, and now we're seeing it at something that is still in its awkward infancy stage because we didn't have a downtown. And now we're seeing it. It's a whole new concept. So, you know, it's weird to see that we have a new downtown, because this isn't what Reading, Shasta County was used to seeing. We didn't get to see it before the mall, for a majority of us.
Yeah, definitely not me.
No.
I was a wee little thing, if not even here.
Right.
No, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I think that a lot of people experience their opinions based off of just what they feel versus actually like experiencing it. Like, we like went to Hops and Shops like a couple weeks ago, and it was so great just to see different interactions with business owners and different ways to, maybe meet a business owner that you probably wouldn't even think of. And then when people are like, what do we have to do in Reading? Like, what is there to do in Reading? And I'm like, when you look at all the events that you guys post about, or that other community, when we talked with Tara, all the like different arts and culture, the shows, the concerts, the events, Cascade to the Civic, there's actually a lot. And I think that, in a great, perfect world, sometimes if it could be consolidated to be, I know Visit Reading does a really good job of trying to like,
they do a great job.
every freaking event on profile, and sometimes you have to do like your research through Facebook, but I really do think that whether it's the parking structure that went away or whatnot, it to me, I'm like, how could it be worse? It's like we either sit there and we have a place to park to go nowhere, like you said, or we create space to actually make it walkable, ride your bike. They're putting in those new bike lanes, which is new and different, because I'm like, I feel like it's a little tighter, but they're putting in the new bike lanes, all of the clean air transportation environment that they've been promoting. But obviously leading all up to the big things of where I think downtown will be shifted is the huge, hype and excitement for the public market. And I'm sure you're going to be so excited for that, just because I think that there will actually be a more consistent flow for things to do down here. Because I think downtown right now has a lot of good options, but if an event draws it, like Hops and Shops, the beer, wine festival, all that kind of stuff, you get pulled into a reason to go around. But sometimes you need something like the public market that's going to have a place for food and, drinking, beer, the economy, beer, and different things. So where are your thoughts with the public market?
Well, to go off of what you were saying is that events don't drive a downtown. That's where Viva Downtown changed. We don't do Market Fest anymore. People say, why don't you do Market Fest? Because the events are not what drives a successful downtown, and that's where Viva Downtown sites went to. We have a historic Cascade Theater. So this, and I'm going to compare this to your big draws. Public market is now the hot topic.
Yeah.
So we have the historic Cascade Theater, which was built in 1935. It was the first air-conditioned building in Shasta County for all of the residents to be able to go to, especially the residents that were working on Shasta Dam at the time. So that was a place that people could go to for movies, shows, performances. Then around 1970s, 1980s, kind of when the big development stuff happened, they completely sectioned out the Cascade Theater into a fourplex. A fourplex theater that covered up all of the architecture, all of the history, and all of the purpose of what that space was as a community venue. And then the movie theater shuttered down. So it was closed off from like the 1980s all the way up until 2004. That is the place that's central to Market Street as well. It's right in the heart. It's a venue for all.
Yeah.
And it was completely closed off. So Viva Downtown moved in there and worked with the community members and the city and the state, and it was about a $5 million+ project that finally opened up in 2004. It just celebrated 20 years of being reopened. But I bring the Cascade up to this because the events didn't drive. It was a way to get people to downtown.
To think bigger
and see that the downtown is still existing and there's assets that are here. But the Cascade Theater is one of those. It was an asset in Reading, and then it was shuttered up and completely taken away from what it's supposed to be. Then once it reopened, you have a venue that brings people. There's 999 seats in that theater that's central to the business district, with restaurants right across the street, bars, stores that are all in the general area. And they host, 3 to 4 performances a week locally and regionally, national shows that go here, and it's our community theater. And that became a place that now activates Market Street with a venue that can run itself and support all of the businesses that are right there.
Yeah.
So now we have this public market. This is the next hot topic.
Yeah.
we see that things, once they're established, do become anchors. We want things to become an anchor. It's about the sustainability of these projects. So I think Public Market's going to be a great program. I need to watch the Aaron Ross podcast to see more, because here's what we've seen. It's a project. It's a big project.
It's huge.
And things change. It doesn't become what we originally think about, because, as we know, plans change. We always have to be comfortable with that. The economy changes, the vision changes, what's going to make it work. And so this Public Market, that's the new space that once it's completed, whenever that opens, will become something that's special for the city of Reading to come experience. And right now, we have a beautiful main street that looks like a movie set. And we're saying that, you brought up retail spaces and empty spaces. The new buildings are empty because those are new buildings, and we created more spaces for businesses. Those were just parking lots for an empty downtown. Now we have opportunities for businesses, but all of the businesses that are surrounding that area, our area of Public Market, California, Block 7, those are all full businesses. You're not seeing a lot of vacant storefronts in our old businesses. So I think when this Public Market opens up, it is going to generate a wonderful thing. We have to see it open and work to see what it can bring. Right now,
end of summer. That's the new timeline. End of summer.
End of summer.
2025.
It'll open when it opens. And the K2 development and Aaron Ross, the Knott brothers, they are some of the biggest investors in downtown, and downtown needs people that see the opportunities for growth. And so for the time being, Market Center has been a wonderful place for two businesses that have moved in there and have celebrated 2 to 3 years of operation. That's Apricot Lane, which is Cassandra, who's a local, a business owner, a mom who saw opportunities in there. She runs this with her family. And then next door is New Clairvaux Vineyards. New Clairvaux Vineyards is a historic winery that's located just an hour away from the city of Reading, in Vina, which you have to go to Vina.
You have to.
And they saw the opportunities of Reading and brought this winery tasting room, the only tasting room of its kind through Vina, here in downtown at Market Center. So while Public Market's not open, there's a lot of incredible downtown businesses that are currently open right now. We're here in the IOOF hall, where there's the Art Hunger, an active art gallery that's open. Go up the street, Shasta County Arts Council, that's an art gallery that's open. You go down to California Street, Riverfront Playhouse, Cascade Theater. These places are open. There's so many great places that are already open, that are already the anchors of our downtown. Public Market opening is just going to feel more connected to everything. Piece it together, because this is still the connecting Market Street block. Going this way and that way. So
very cool. Before we kind of wrap up, I always love to end with kind of just more like, what is the current project and vision that you guys are working on right now? Is it just kind of, the Main Street approach and kind of just continuing to push that? Obviously, you guys were very involved with Cascade. That was years ago, but do you guys have like a project that Viva's vision is right now that you guys are working through?
It's the IOF hall. So, Viva Downtown, as I mentioned, we are located in downtown. In areas that are needed to focus on. So here in the IOOF hall, we're part of the McConnell Foundation's Community Vitality investment into downtown. So we've been operating out of the IOF hall for the last 5 years. And this has become a community hub. It's central to all of the investment projects, right in the middle of our downtown, and it's a community space that's opened up. And so some of the ways that we're, our main focus right now is to make the IOF hall a community space for live music and film presentations upstairs, the art gallery as an art gallery hub, that art is an economic generator. The artists who participate in here, through Carlo Henry, who's our arts director, which I hope you interview him.
Maybe he'll teach me how to paint.
He will, and he'll teach you how to hang up, and he painted this mural. This space is a space for the community. That's our main focus. And for the rest of the year, you know, we focus on different projects, hops and shops. We focus on the Reading Beer and Wine Festival, the largest street event that happens in downtown with for beer, wine, local businesses.
Yeah.
We focus on the Christmas tree lighting. In downtown. This will be like the 107th year of the Christmas tree lighting. And it's back in its original historic location. So, you know, on top of that, Viva focuses on the IOF Hall as a community space.
Yeah.
Public street events that bring people to downtown. We do our monthly business group meetings, our collaborative meetings. And it's just focused on creating a downtown that people are proud of.
Yeah.
And I hope people are proud of. And I know we can develop, you know, all of the ideas of what's happening or why is this happening or anything. But our downtown is something we should be proud of.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way. And if people decide to move to Reading, they'll see the heart and love that's being put on by local residents who have lived here their whole lives that want to see a downtown that we can all be proud of.
Yeah. And your next 5-year vision, what would you, I mean...
We're working on that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you personally.
My 5-year vision?
Well, just like for Reading, like being a Reading native, I mean, like you said, you've seen so much change and growth, and we're kind of like, you said, a little bit in the infancy stage.
We're in the infancy stage.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think that this would be considered to some people an infant stage, but to others, like, you know, they're always trying to race to the end. What is it going to be like when everybody's in the shops and everything's hustling and bustling and all that kind of stuff? But what's your 5-year vision for Reading, being a Reading native?
It's a good one, Faith. I don't, you know, for me, I just want to be proud that, you know, I get to have a hand in working with so many great people.
Yeah.
You know, our city has come a long way. There's things that people are going to be focused on downtown once these development projects finish. People are going to start focusing on how's the sustainability. So what I'm hoping in the next 5 years is that our downtown's sustainable, that we see more arts and culture growth, that more people are moving to Reading because they see us as an economic generator. We're the largest city north of Sacramento. We're on I-5 that connects all the metropolitan cities.
Right.
We are something that's very special and something that, you know, a city that we should all be invested in and proud of.
Yeah.
In 5 years, I hope that, you know,
that sustainability.
I hope that we're there.
It creates like a bigger mark, you know, like I think one thing that I would love in the next 5 years is that we can incorporate more of the river into
the riverfront specific planning is happening. Riverfront specific planning.
I know that's not really like downtown, but
it's downtown adjacent. That's our words, and they're part of the
wrapped there
the Reading Cultural District. So
and that's I think where I would love to see. I know everybody always says they hope that we could potentially become like a little micro bend, you know, where we actually utilize the river. We have like beer and wine, you know, festivals, all these different things that create like the community hub. Is it a little bit of a stretch to dream that way? Possibly. No. But I also think it's a big, but I also think, in my opinion, like you got to create your own version of it, because everybody's going to have like their own pluses and minuses to Bend. But I think it's really cool to see a town like Bend, again, very aspirational to be there and grow towards that. But I think there's cool aspects of it. Like they utilize the river so well, you know, and it's like we have such a, you know, the sundial, like just different ways to connect, getting on the fishing, kayaking, like just all these different things. And so I'm really hopeful in the next 5 years that as we build out growth, community downtown, that the riverfront, you know, becomes alive in that, because it's one of the best places to sit here in Reading and just watch. So
it's a beautiful river. That's Faith. I knew you were going to mention Bend, because you're not the only one. And I always have to say, why don't we be the best versions of ourselves? And I'm glad you said that. We have an opportunity to become the best Reading.
Yeah.
And that's something that we all have a hand in. Let's not try and be Bend. Let's not try and be Chico.
Yeah.
Because they have things that we don't have, and we have things that they don't have.
Yeah.
We have a river.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I see in common with Bend.
They have a river, and but it is like a comment that people utilize a lot. But yes, best version.
We have a Calatrava Bridge. I mean, come on, the Sundial Bridge, the Santiago Calatrava Bridge. I mean,
I don't think I could say that.
Try it.
The what?
The Santiago Calatrava.
The Santiago Calatrava. Bridge.
You got bridge.
Yeah.
That
almost said cauliflower in there.
that would have been funny. That's our sundial. I mean, its sister is the Ground Zero train station, the subway station over in New York City.
Yeah.
Like, we have international people that view Reading. We have something special.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to take away from that. And that's coming from somebody that was born and raised here and got to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm proud. And I hope you get to interview some other great people, because
there's so many people to interview in Reading.
There's so many. I could give you a list of and I'm honored to be on this podcast to share it, but downtown is made possible because of the investment of the city of Reading, because of the investment of the business owners, because of the Reading Cultural District. There's a lot of people that make our downtown special. And I hope our residents start to make our downtowns feel special too.
As people obviously feel excited from listening and watching this, I know you guys have a podcast, you have an Instagram, social media. Is there ways that people can be also volunteering in Viva Downtown, or, how would people get plugged in?
That'd be great. Yes. vivadowntownreading.org. That's our website. Viva Downtown Reading is our Facebook and Instagram. And we have a podcast called the Downtown Discussion Podcast that highlights the people who enhance downtown through social, cultural, and economic development. And, these are the people that they're either elected officials, or they're your mom and pop business shop, or they're somebody that's, saying, I want to see some change in downtown.
Yeah.
If people want to volunteer, there's always the events that they can volunteer at Viva Downtown. But there's also places like the Cascade Theater, the Shasta County Arts Council, Riverfront Playhouse, that need volunteers too.
Yeah.
And, a lot of opportunities to get involved in downtown.
Yeah.
So just reach out to vivadowntownreading.org and check it out. And if you see me walking around, come and say hi.
Yes.
Check it out, because I live in downtown and I work in downtown, and I always love to talk about what's going on.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for giving a whole highlight on how Viva has made such an impact in downtown Reading, and the vision and the goals and the future, and just how, just the growth of your guys' Main Street approach to everything. As one Reading native to another, this has been really fun. And as always, I hope you found this episode super helpful in just understanding the growth, the development, the revitalization, and just kind of where we are as Reading right now, a little bit in our infant stages. But as you continue to watch, this is going to be a really, really special project that, completes out with the growth. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Rooted in Reading. Don't forget to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments below, or connect with Viva Downtown Reading, and they would probably be a plethora of resource for other additional questions. We'll see you next week.